on Y News. The National Food Authority expects prices of rice to go down by 2 pesos per kilogram following the arrival of rice imports. President Rodrigo Duterte wants health warning labels on sugary products. And the Ombudsman indicts former President Benigno Aquino III over the Disbursement Acceleration Program scam. Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center in Quezon City, this is Y News.
Good evening. The National Food Authority expects prices of commercial rice to soon go down. Rene Pelayo tells us why.
The imported rice from Vietnam that arrived in Subic in June 2 has already been unloaded following fair weather. The National Food Authority or NFA says the 17,000 metric tons or 340,000 sacks of rice will go to its buffer stock and be distributed across central Luzon, particularly in Zambales, Pampanga, Bulacan, and Bataan. In the coming days, the rice imports will soon be available in the market. NFA Administrator Jason Aquino says 43% of the 5 million sacks of rice imports from Vietnam and Thailand have already arrived in the country. Aquino notes prices of commercial rice will go down to around 2 pesos per kilogram after the distribution of the rice imports in the market. But prices of NFA rice in public markets will remain at 27 pesos to 32 pesos per kilogram. The NFA says it will soon give discounts to poor Filipinos affected by the trade law.
We will implement a 10% reduction of price for NFA rice, and this will be given to the poorest of the poor.
The agency expects to complete the 10 million sacks of rice imports in August of this year. Meanwhile, NFA begins selling NFA rice in its station store in Albay. Rice prices here range from 27 pesos per kilogram, cheaper than the 40 pesos well-milled or commercial rice. However, the Grains Retailers Confederation of the Philippines Incorporated notes consumers can only buy up to 5 kilograms of NFA rice. This is since there are only 126,000 sacks of NFA rice available in Bicol, which is lower than the previous rotations. Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
President Rodrigo Duterte wants products that count sugar as a main ingredient to carry health warnings, according to Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez. He also encourages consumers to shop around and look for cheaper products. June Soriao tells us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte orders the placement of health warning labels on sugary products to inform the public about their health risk. According to Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez, the President issued the directive after expressing concern on the danger posed by consuming drinks containing sugar as main ingredient.
So sabi niya, there should be truth in advertising, or maybe he is referring to truth in labeling. So in the label, we were explaining, nando naman po siya sa likod. But I think what he wants to say now is dapat may warning. Para bang sigarilyo, may warning, this can be dangerous to your health.
Lopez notes the issue on health warning label was raised while they were discussing the impact of the tax reform law on inflation. He adds they are now coordinating with the Department of Health and Food and Drug Administration. They also plan to meet with the stakeholders to identify products that have high sugar content. Lopez estimates to implement this in 1 to 2 months.
Mga energy drinks, diba? High sugar yon. The rest would be yung medium sugar, which is of course the soft drinks. We'll have to identify alin tong mga high sugar. Maybe the candies.
Meanwhile, DTI encourages consumers to look for groceries that offer essential products with prices 1 to 2 peso lower than the suggested retail price. He says this promotes good competition and avoids profiteering.
Kung tingin nilang siguradong mura sa grocery, doon sila pumunta.
Okay.
No? Of course, kung fresh produce, pagpilian nila saan mura. It's a good competition between supermarkets and versus public market. Talaga pong may competition yan. So ang taong mamili saan mas mura.
Yun Suriao, UNTV, News and Rescue, Manila.
The Office of the Ombudsman finds probable cause to indict former President Benigno Aquino III for usurpation of legislative powers over the controversial Disbursement Acceleration Program or DAP, acting on the motions for reconsideration filed by the parties. In a resolution approved on June 14, 2018, the Ombudsman Special Panel partially granted a motion for reconsideration filed by complainant Bayan Muna Party List Representative Carlos Zarate. However, it denied the appeal of former Budget Secretary Florencio Abad. Zarate welcomes the decision, but he believes Aquino and Abad should also be indicted for technical malversation. The Liberal Party, meanwhile, insists in a statement that Aquino did not commit any illegal act but will respect the process and expects his reasoning be given due course. The charge stems from the unlawful issuance of National Budget Circular to implement DAP involving 72 billion pesos. Presidential Advisor on Political Affairs Secretary Francis Tolentino says the President may discuss in his upcoming State of the Nation address the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law, federalism, and the 2019 budget. He also adds there is no possibility of a deadlock in the passage of the Bangsamoro Basic Law. Here's why from Bernard Dadis.
Presidential Advisor on Political Affairs Francis Tolentino says President Rodrigo Duterte is expected to discuss in his upcoming State of the Nation address or SONA the Bangsamoro Basic Law and proposed shift of the country to federalism. The President's SONA will be on the 23rd of July.
The President exercises discretion kung ano yung ilalabas niya.
Duterte vowed the passage of BBL and the shift to a federal form of government during his 2016 presidential campaign. He said the two will rapidly help the country develop. Meanwhile, Tolentino says he sees no possibility of a deadlock in the bicameral committee in the passage of the BBL, especially since it's one of the administration's priorities.
Yung batas give and take yan hindi naman yan. Dadaan pa naman sa referendum yan. I don't foresee that. Hindi siguro. Lahat nakatuon ngayon sa kapayapaan. Kung yung North Korea, US nga, malalayong lugar, nagkaisa para sa kapayapaan. Ito pa sariling bayan natin.
Tolentino notes the two chambers of Congress are only arguing over few BBL provisions such as the regional police, regional armed forces, and banks and currency. Bernard Dadis, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority has ordered the closure of 5 bus terminals in Pasay City. Joan Nano explains why.
5 bus terminals in Pasay City will temporarily stop operating after the Metro Manila Development Authority or MMDA found the terminals violating the nose-in, nose-out policy. Terminals ordered closed are the Maria Victoria Transit, St. Jude or Peña Francia Transport Incorporated, A. Aranda, Bobby's Transit, and RMB Transport System. One can notice that the terminals are untidy, lack facilities like comfort rooms, and has no proper ventilation. They also lack seats in the waiting area and PWD-friendly ramp, among others. According to MMDA, the terminals have no proper documents rendering their operations illegal.
Kagaya nung ibang ginawa namin nung sa mga pinasara sa Quezon City noon na hindi makakomply sa nose-in, nose-out requirement, naglagay tayo ng mga tao para bantayan talaga, para hindi na magamit o hindi mabuksan.
The agency conducted the operation with the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board and some representatives of the local government of Pasay City who were gone in the middle of the operation. LTFRB's Eileen Lisada says she plans to recommend to the Metro Manila Council to give the agency the sole authorization to issue compliance permit before LGUs allow the operation of bus terminals.
Para ma-inspect namin kung papasa ba o hindi. Kung papasa, i-issue kami, then that's the time pa-process ng permit. Kung hindi makakapasa, then wag muna i-process ang permit.
The MMDA assures that the buses ordered closed will not be able to operate until they fix their terminals. Violators will face complaints from the MMDA.
May mga fixed posts kami dito magmo-monitor. Kukuha lang kami ng litrato, then we will file a case. Kasi nakakapagod din yung lagi ka na lang ng enforcer.
Meanwhile, the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority warns motorists against illegal towing services after storming an area being used as a terminal in Makati earlier. The agency says these towing service operators introduced themselves as MMDA accredited, charging 10,000 pesos for every towed vehicle. But instead of impounding these vehicles in MMDA's holding area in Pasig City, they allegedly bring it under a bridge in Makati. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up from where Darlene Basingan left off. I'm Angelo Castro III, and here are the headlines. A senator questions anew the master plan for Boracay rehabilitation. The Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption proposes another strategy in fighting crimes to President Rodrigo Duterte. And the Philippine National Police insists that arresting street idlers, especially at nighttime without a warrant, is legal. Good evening. The details of the government's master plan for the rehabilitation of Boracay Island have been questioned anew during a Senate hearing. A senator, meanwhile, pushes for the creation of a government body that would oversee the island. Nel Marie Buhok explains why.
The Senate has once again scrutinized the state of the rehabilitation efforts of the government on the Boracay Island. During an inquiry, the Boracay Interagency Task Force reported that 10 of the 885 commercial structures in Boracay have been demolished due to various violations. 6,000 workers are also benefiting from the government's livelihood program. The interagency body targets to reopen the island in September.
At least the first week of September. But we'll have to discuss the definition of soft opening.
But Senator Antonio Trillanes IV has once again questioned the master plan of the government for Boracay. Trillanes notes the repair of sewerage system can be done without closing down commercial establishments.
What really triggered the closure is we tried to, all these establishments, to comply with existing regulation.
The senator adds the government's efforts in improving the island is insufficient.
Talagang nakakadismaya na hindi pa rin significantly umuusad yung mga rehabilitation sa Boracay dahil nga nagtuturuan, ano?
Meanwhile, Senate Committee Chairperson Cynthia Villar says the Agrarian Reform Department should properly scrutinize the distribution of land in Boracay.
300 plus hectares are forest land na hindi daw magagalaw yon unless by an act of Congress. And then the rest, 600 hectares, 300 plus na ang natitulahan sa private. So natitira na lang is another 300, less than 300 hectares. So yun ang dapat i-determine.
Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon says it's high time to create a body that would oversee the island.
All that we have now are ad hoc solutions. We need a master plan and a master plan to be implemented by a single authority.
Senator Villar says her committee will conduct monthly hearings to properly monitor the progress of Boracay rehabilitation. Nel Marie Buhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources believes that Boracay Island will be reopened after 6 months. While the Department of the Interior and Local Government says President Duterte wants land reform and not agrarian reform in Boracay. Here's why from Vincent Arboleda.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources reports that 50% of the cleanup and rehabilitation efforts in Boracay Island is already complete. So they are quite confident of meeting the deadline of reopening the island after 6 months.
More than 50% na kasi we have identified everything na implementation na lang ito, matter of time.
Simato notes the coliform content in the waters of the White Beach is now in the safe level after eliminating pipes discharging wastes to the sea. He also hopes to make Bulabog Beach safe for swimming by bringing down the coliform levels and completing the drainage outfall erected by the Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority. Drainage pipes and sewer are also being laid down under the roads of Boracay. The DPWH road widening project will also start in July, along with the reorganization of electrical and cable wires for telephone and internet services. Rehabilitation of the wetland areas have also begun after the Boracay Interagency Task Force found a relocation site for the residents and workers affected by the demolition. Meanwhile, the Interior and Local Government Department clarifies that not all areas in Boracay will be converted as agricultural lands. DILG says only those readily identified agricultural lands will be under the agrarian reform. If there are other land areas viable for Ati indigenous group in Boracay, this will be added to the existing 2.1 hectare land which was already given to the Ati. DILG's data show that Boracay Island earns $800 million yearly, but despite the booming local economy, majority of the residents still suffer from poverty.
Pangulo malinaw, dapat ang mga Boracay noon magbenepisyo sa paglago ng ekonomiya ng Boracay.
Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, Boracay.
The Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption seeks to propose to President Rodrigo Duterte another approach or strategy in fighting crimes. Monokson tells us why.
Killing will not address crimes. This is the view of Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption, or VACC, about the government's current anti-criminality campaign. In an interview on the Get It Straight with Daniel Razon, VACC President Cory Quirino highlights the need for a new approach or strategy in addressing crimes.
It has to be a holistic approach. Ang hindi solusyon ang pag-i-eliminate ng lahat ng mga kriminal. Na pag nakakita ka ng kriminal, papatayin mo. Because every person is entitled to due process.
Quirino says she believes in the country's justice system, noting that instead of killing violators of the law, the state should just arrest them. The VACC chief says she will endorse to the president a new strategy in addressing crimes.
Malawakan na project ito na kailangan ipresenta sa presidente. That will include crime prevention, poverty alleviation, which will include education. In short, it will touch every aspect of all the major cabinet secretaries' policies.
Quirino explains one approach to crime prevention would be the removal of street children. She says the VACC will build a shelter for street children where they receive care and education. Meanwhile, Quirino also believes the government should reinstate death penalty. But before doing so, the VACC chief emphasizes the government should fix first the loopholes in what she describes as the country's imperfect laws. Quirino notes what the VACC can do for now is to assist victims of crimes who seek their help. The VACC has a victims assistance desk, legal assist, and court watch for those seeking help. The group also calls for more volunteers. Those interested to volunteer may call its hotline number 352-0174. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Philippine National Police insists that arresting street idlers, especially at nighttime without warrants, is legal amid the flack they drew for apprehending violators of local laws. Bernard Tadis explains why.
The Philippine National Police defend its moves to arrest tambays or loiterers who violate city ordinances despite the criticisms it received from various sectors over crackdown on street idlers. PNP spokesperson Police Senior Superintendent Benigno Durana says the law allows the arrest of loiterers without warrant, citing Section 3, Rule 113 of the Rules of Court.
Number one, when in the presence of police officer, a crime or a violation has been committed, or the person to be arrested has committed or is attempting to commit a violation or a crime. Number two, when the police officer has personal knowledge that the crime that has been committed, sa tingin niya yung tao na yon at may personal knowledge siya na he just committed a crime. At pangalawa, when the person to be arrested is an escapee, nakatakas po siya sa mga kulungan.
He notes the PNP is mandated to maintain peace and order, so they are bound to implement laws like arresting those who violate local policies.
This is just cutting crimes but improving the sense of public safety and security of the people. Yung mapabuti natin ang pakiramdam ng taong bayan sa kanilang kaligtasan at seguridad.
Durana clarifies that a person may refuse invitation to police precinct but implores the public to familiarize themselves with the ordinances in their respective areas. While the Commission on Human Rights spokesperson Attorney Jackie De Guia said in a message that it understands the administration's objective to ensure peace and order and public safety. It asserts that the warrantless arrest is unconstitutional. De Guia adds a person should not be arrested without probable cause and due process, and the police should not discriminate nor stereotype street loiterers as troublemakers. In response, the PNP assures strict implementation of police operational procedure and warns dismissal against violators. Further, that is UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Several Liberal Party members urge ousted Supreme Court Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno to run for the Senate in 2019. Here's why from Grace Casin.
Hours after the Supreme Court's final ruling on the ouster of Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno, several lawmakers and personalities urged her to run for Senate in the 2019 midterm elections. In a Twitter account, Liberal Party member Ifugao Representative Teddy Bagilat created a poll seeking the public's view on Sereno as senator. He explains the former top magistrates need a platform to carry her fight for an independent judiciary. Well, according to Caloocan Representative Egay Irice and former presidential spokesperson Edwin Lacerda, the Senate needs someone like Sereno. LP President Kiko Pangilinan earlier said Sereno is welcome if she decides to join the senatorial race. Some netizens also posted their call for Sereno to run for Senate, but the camp of former Chief Justice is yet to respond on the matter. The Makabayan Bloc also wants Sereno to help them fight for democracy and exact accountability in the Duterte administration.
Welcome na development dyan upang magkaroon ng isang mas broader na kilusan, no? Ang kawalan ng Korte Suprema ay tingin ko isang positibong dagdag, no, sa hanay ng mga lumalabang mamamayan.
Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
The Judicial and Bar Council publicly screens aspirants for the position of Ombudsman. Here's why from JL Asayo.
9 aspirants vying for position of the Ombudsman face the Judicial and Bar Council panelists today. It can be noted that Ombudsman Conchita Carpio is set to vacate her post next month. Those vying for the Ombudsman position include Department of Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III, Sandigan Justice Efren N. de la Cruz, Private Practitioner Edna A. Herrera Batacan, first-time applicant Ray Nathaniel Ifurung, and Presidential Son's lawyer Rainier L. Madrid. The names of Bello and Martirez have been rumored to be the top picks for the Ombudsman post. During the interview, Bello said he's been targeting the post of Ombudsman since law on justice and peace are his expertise, while Supreme Court Associate Justice Martirez, the first Supreme Court appointee of President Duterte, still has more than a year before retiring. If chosen as the next Ombudsman, he will have to vacate his post. Panelists questioned Martirez's decision on the case of former Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno.
After the last question, Kalida answered me. When I look at the Chief Justice, our eyes met and she was smiling at me. Don't tell me that the smile says that siraulo ka pala ba't mo ko sinisiraan, di ba?
In reference to former Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno's case, the JBC will not change any of the process and requirements for the aspirants.
Requirement kasi sa application, it's not really a clearance in the real sense of the word na dapat cleared ka. Kasi it can happen that you are applying pero meron kang kaso, but the case might be dismissed in the course of the process.
The JBC targets to finish the deliberation before the end of June and come up with a short list that will be submitted to President Duterte. The President has 90 days to choose Carpio's replacement. JL Asayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
President Rodrigo Duterte will no longer grant second chances as he warns of more dismissals of erring government officials. Here's why from Victor Cosare.
President Rodrigo Duterte vows there would be no let-up in his anti-corruption campaign as he warns of dismissing more corrupt government officials. In a speech during the 81st anniversary of the Government Service Insurance System, the chief executive says he doesn't care if his administration would be characterized by firing people from the government.
There will be more dismissals to come. And I don't care if my whole term would be characterized by the firing and dismissal of people from government. Ayaw ko talaga yan. And give the Filipino a respite of corruption.
Duterte, however, admits of having difficulty in resolving the deeply rooted corruption in the government.
Marami talaga yan until now. Hindi mo maputol pag-isip ng president. Even if I have to just dwell on it, only focus on it, only. Kaya as fast as they come up, bibirahin mo talaga. Wala akong patawad dyan. Sabi ko nga sa mga, even you whiff.
The president has fired at least 20 government officials accused of corruption and excessive travel since he came to power in 2016.
Tungkol naman po sa katiwalian, pag proven at saka pumasok sa corruption, ay talaga namang sisibakin ng Pangulo at kung kailangan ay papailan po ng charges.
The opposition, however, is questioning Duterte's sincerity in fulfilling his promise to get rid of corruption in the government after reappointing 3 of the SAC officials, including Agriculture Undersecretary Jose Gabriel Pompi Lavina, Housing Deputy Secretary General Melissa Aradanas, and Philippine Coconut Authority member Manuel Serra. Victor Cosare, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
State Insurance Social Security System reminds its typhoon-affected members in Tacloban City to avail of the Calamity Loan Restructuring Program set to be terminated in October this year. SSS Tacloban Officer in Charge Dr. Lilibet Cahucom says the restructuring is intended for members who availed Calamity Loan but are unable to pay their dues. SSS opened the Calamity Loan Program for victims of typhoons Yolanda, Ruby, and Urduha. Applicants are also advised to bring complete documents such as ID, fully accomplished application form that can be downloaded from SSS website. President Rodrigo Duterte appoints Marlon Sabusido Casquejo as ad interim commissioner of the Commission on Elections. Casquejo will replace Christian Robert Lim, who retired in February. Based on Casquejo's appointment papers signed by the President, he will be serving as commissioner until February 2, 2025. Casquejo served as Assistant Regional Election Director in Davao City prior to his latest appointment. The Senate committee led by Senator Antonio Trillanes IV tackles the passage of a bill to prevent fake news. According to the Presidential Communications Operations Office, the definition of fake news should be detailed given that there are proposals to penalize those who will spread fake news.
What if it is an opinion? And of course, what if you just shared?
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, as his personal capacity, says he is opposing the passage of the said bill, which will violate the freedom of expression under the Constitution. Also, he warns the opposition group over the passage of an anti-fake news bill.
Na kapag ikaw po'y kakampi ng gobyerno, chances are, ikaw pa ang pagtatakban. Hindi ko sinasabi yan ang nangyayari ngayon. Kaya nga po, together with the void, with the vagueness of the definition, ang makakasuhan lang po nito ay yung mga taong gobyerno na kalaban ng administrasyon.
Senator Trillanes accepted the facts on defining fake news and assures they are now detailing the bill's penal provision.
Pwede kasi yung suspension, di ba? So, kung paulit-ulit, depende na yan kung gaano kahaba yung suspension mo, with or without pay. Yan yung pag-uusapan, pati himayin.
Nel Maribuho, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Up next on Y News. The U.S. pulls out of the United Nations Human Rights Council, calling it a cesspool of political bias. And the first Wishful 5 album gets gold and platinum record award in day one. And those are the reasons behind the stories in the second part of our newscast. Y News returns with William Thio. I'm Angelo, Castro III. Good evening.
To complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. The National Food Authority expects market prices of commercial rice to go down by 2 pesos per kilogram in the coming days. According to NFA Administrator Jason Aquino, this is due to the arrival of the initial 340,000 sacks of rice they imported that will soon be distributed across Central Luzon. Aquino says NFA rice will still be sold in public markets at 27 pesos to 32 pesos per kilogram. The agency expects to complete the 10 million sacks of rice imports in August of this year. NFA will also soon give discounts to poor Filipinos heavily affected by the tax reform or train law.
We will implement a 10% reduction of price for NFA rice, and this will be given to the poorest of the poor.
Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte orders the placement of health warning labels on sugary products. According to Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez, the chief executive wants the public to be aware of the danger posed by consuming drinks counting sugar as the main ingredient.
Sabi ha, there should be truth in advertising, or maybe he's referring to truth in labeling. So in the label, we were explaining, nando naman po siya sa likod. But I think what he wants to say now is dapat may warning. Para bang sigarilyo, may warning, this can be dangerous to your health.
Lopez also says they are now coordinating with the Department of Health and Food and Drug Administration as they plan to meet with the stakeholders to identify products with high sugar content. The official estimates to implement this policy in 1 to 2 months.
Mga energy drinks, diba? High sugar yon. The rest would be yung medium sugar, which is of course the soft drinks. Pero obvious na yun nandun na yun. So we'll have to identify alitong mga high sugar. Maybe the candies, I don't know. Sugar lang talaga din yun, no? Halo sugar yan. So kailangan lang may mga ganung warning.
Former President Benigno Aquino III maintains he committed no illegal act in implementing the Disbursement Acceleration Program or DAP. This is following the resolution released by the Office of the Ombudsman indicting Aquino for usurpation of legislative powers over the controversial program, partially granting the motion for reconsideration filed by complainant Bayan Muna Party List Representative Carlos Zarate. The Ombudsman, however, denied the appeal filed by former Budget Secretary Florencio Butch Abad. In a statement released by the Liberal Party, Aquino assures he will respect the process, but he also expects that due course will be given to his reasoning. Zarate, meanwhile, welcomes the decision, but he believes Aquino and Abad should also be indicted for technical malversation. The charge stems from the unlawful issuance of National Budget Circular to implement DAP involving 72 billion pesos. Senator Antonio Trillanes IV questions anew the master plan for the ongoing Boracay Island rehabilitation. In today's Senate inquiry, Trillanes insists there is no need to close down Boracay to repair its sewerage system. He adds the government's efforts in improving the island is insufficient.
Talagang nakakadismaya na hindi pa rin significantly umuusad yung mga rehabilitation sa Boracay dahil nga nagtuturuan, ano?
The Boracay Interagency Task Force also reported during the hearing that 10 of the more than 800 commercial structures have been demolished due to various violations and that 6,000 workers are also benefiting from the government's livelihood program. The interagency body targets to reopen the island in September.
Is the first week of September, but we'll have to discuss the definition of soft opening.
The Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption is looking to propose to President Rodrigo Duterte another approach or strategy in fighting crimes. In an interview on the Get It Straight with Daniel Razon earlier, VACC President Cory Quirino says the government needs to revisit its anti-criminality campaign to effectively address crimes. She says one approach would be the removal of children from the streets and putting them in a shelter where they receive proper care and education. Quirino also believes the government should reinstate death penalty, but it should fix first the loopholes in what she describes as the country's imperfect laws.
It has to be a holistic approach. Ang hindi solusyon ang pag-i-eliminate ng lahat ng mga kriminal. Na pag nakakita ka ng kriminal, papatayin mo. Because every person is entitled to due process. Malawakan na project ito na kailangan ipresenta sa presidente. That will include crime prevention, poverty alleviation, which will include education. In short, it will touch every aspect of all the major cabinet secretaries' policies.
Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police insists that arresting street idlers violating local ordinances without warrant is legal amid criticisms from various sectors over crackdown on street loiterers. PNP spokesperson Senior Superintendent Benigno Durana says the law allows the arrest of loiterers without warrant, citing Section 3, Rule 113 of the Rules of Court. He notes the PNP is mandated to maintain peace and order and is bound to implement laws like arresting those who violate local policies. Durana, however, clarifies that a person may refuse invitation to police precinct but implores the public to familiarize themselves with the ordinances in their respective areas.
Number one, when in the presence of police officer, a crime or a violation has been committed, or the person to be arrested has committed or is attempting to commit a violation or a crime. Number two, when the police officer has personal knowledge that the crime that has been committed. No? At pangalawa, when the person to be arrested is an escapee. No? This is just cutting crimes but improving the sense of public safety and security of the people.
And for the news abroad, here's Noel Poliarco from Toronto, Canada. Noel, good evening.
Good evening, Will. At least 3 people were killed and many were injured as the government forces in Nicaragua launched an operation to regain control of the city of Masaya. Residents say security forces and militias used disproportionate force to clear barricades on Tuesday. The operation was launched a day after the collapse of talks between President Daniel Ortega's government and the opposition. More than 180 people have died in 2 months of anti-government protests. The United States of America pulls out of the United Nations Human Rights Council, calling it a cesspool of political bias. Kat Carriedo tells us why.
United States withdraws from hypocritical and self-serving United Nations Human Rights Council on Tuesday over what it called as chronic bias against Israel and a lack of reform. Standing with U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo at the State Department, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley slammed Russia, China, Cuba, and Egypt for thwarting U.S. efforts to reform the Council.
For too long, the Human Rights Council has been a protector of human rights abusers and a cesspool of political bias. Regrettably, it is now clear that our call for reform was not heeded.
But activists say the U.S. move could hurt efforts to monitor and address human rights abuses around the world.
I want to make it crystal clear that this step is not a retreat from human rights commitments. On the contrary, we take this step because our commitment does not allow us to remain a part of a hypocritical and self-serving organization that makes a mockery of human rights.
Washington's withdrawal is the latest U.S. rejection of multilateral engagement after it pulled out of the Paris Climate Agreement and the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. Among reforms the United States had pushed for was to make it easier to kick out member states with egregious rights records. Currently, a 2/3 majority vote by the 193-member UN General Assembly is needed to suspend a member state. Haley also notes the disproportionate focus and unending hostility toward Israel is clear proof that the Council is motivated by political bias, not by human rights. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in a statement released through his spokesman, responded by saying he would have much preferred the U.S. to remain in the Council, while UN Human Rights Commissioner Zaid Rad Al Hussein calls the U.S. withdrawal disappointing, if not really surprising news. Israel, meanwhile, praises the decision. The move comes amid intense criticism over the Trump administration's policy of separating child migrants from their parents at the U.S.-Mexico border, which the UN Human Rights on Monday called as unconscionable policy. Kath Carriedo, UNTV News and Rescue, Chicago, USA.
Search effort had resumed on Wednesday for the estimated 180 people who were declared missing after a ferry sunk in North Sumatra, Indonesia. 18 survivors were picked up soon after the ferry sunk early Monday evening as the wind picked up and water turned rough on the lake. The Indonesia Search and Rescue Agency had deployed divers and an underwater drone in the search after bad weather hampered search efforts on Tuesday. Dozens of desperate family members crowded around as a third body was brought ashore at Tigaras on Wednesday morning, and searchers expect to find many more victims trapped in the doomed vessels once they locate where it came to rest in the 400-meter deep lake.
Wishful 5 treat fans in their first successful album launch concert last night. Leslie Longboen tells us why.
After the very successful album release, Wishful's Ace Bartolome, Carmela Ariola, Louie Ann Culala, Kimberly Baluzo, and Princess Sevillana soared high in their Wishful Journey concert at the Big Dome last night. The Wishfuls performed these songs from their album, including revival tracks. The Rising Stars were also proud to present their new singles. The Wishfuls said they felt very blessed for the opportunities that were open to them after Wishcovery.
Para kaming nasa Cloud9 pa rin. Sobrang saya kasi alam kong meron na akong sariling akin.
Sisimula pa lang pero grabing opportunities na po yung binigay sa amin. Like, eto nga pong album launch concert namin, dito po agad sa Araneta ginanap.
Dati kami nangangarap lang pero ngayon yung pangarap namin, abot kamay na namin.
Meanwhile, the hashtag Wishful Journey album launch landed on the 4th spot of the Philippines Trends list yesterday, a proof of the growing support for the up-and-coming stars.
Na sobrang nakaka-touch, na nagbibigay sa amin ng dahilan para lalo naming galingan.
Thank you sa lahat po talaga ng, alam mo yun, talagang tumangkilik po nung album, tsaka nung itong concert kasi hindi namin mapupunot kung hindi dahil sa kanila din.
After the concert, big projects are lined up for the Wishful 5.
Makakasama sila sa iba-ibang mga concerts pa na ating ipinoproduce dito sa Pilipinas at maging sa abroad. They will also be part of it ng paglo-launch ng ating Wish Hollywood Bus. At doon ay kasama na din na ipopromote nila internationally yung kanilang mga original songs.
Leslie Longboan, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Meanwhile, 2 veteran music producers consider the album released by Wishful 5 called The Wishful Journey as historical. Here's why from Aiko Miguel.
Music producer Junji Marcelo and Star Music audio and content head Jonathan Manalo are astounded with the events subsequent to the official release of the first album of the Wishful Five at the Big Dome on Tuesday. The two veteran composers deem it historical after 15,000 units of the Wishful Journey album were sold just a few hours after its release, reaching Gold and Platinum Award. According to the Philippine Association of the Record Industry Incorporated or PARI, a Gold Record Award is given if an album sells 7,500 units, while Platinum Record Award for 15,000 units sold.
So we're here to award on behalf, of course, of your entire family in Star Music. This is a PARI certified Gold Record Award and Platinum Record Award being given to the Wishful Five, of course. Sobra talaga natutuwa ako na yung supporters nila talagang sobrang loyal at talagang pinilahan. So yun nga, first day, nag-gold, nag-platinum agad, and first time yun nangyari sa history.
Marcelo says he is extremely honored to be part of Wishful Five's songwriting team to help mold their talents to reach full potential and making a career in the music industry.
Iba I have no words. Ibang level talaga. Yung ma-appreciate yung ginawa mo, one thing yun. Pero ma-appreciate ng nakararami yung ginawa mo, ay sobrang blessing yun.
Daniel Razon, the man behind the broadcast media and music industry innovations under Wish 1075, meanwhile expresses gratitude for the successful record sales and Wishful Journey concert of the Wishful Five.
One day platinum and one day gold kasi magkasama na, gold and platinum. Maraming salamat. At maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat na sumuporta sa Wishful Five. Una ang ating laging pasasalamat sa Panginoon sa lahat ng kanyang mga kabutihan. Salamat po sa Diyos sa mga hindi natin ina-expect pero ipinagkakaloob niya pa rin sa atin.
Marcelo, meanwhile, hopes for more Wish FM innovations and projects to discover more Filipino singing gems along with rendering public service.
Si Kuya Daniel, na laging mahirap sundan yung mga ideya dahil laging trailblazer. Pero I just want to tell you personally, Kuya Daniel, don't ever stop doing those things kasi it really blesses a lot of people.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
And those are the reasons behind the news June 20, 2018. On behalf of Darlene, Basingan, and Angelo, Castro III, I am William Thio. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.